Hi, everyone, and thanks for being here today. I'm really excited for this presentation, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So again, this is networking and finding internships in liberal arts. My name is Daisy Gillum. I'm one of the employer relations partners here at SNHU. I'm joined by Dana McGrath, who is also an employer relations partner, and Aisha from Penguin Random House. So we're going to go through some introductions and we'll get the presentation started. Just as a note too, this event is being recorded. I also want to talk about our accessibility statement. So individuals with accessibility needs that required accommodations may reach out to. If you're an online student, it's the OAC at snhu.edu, or you can call 866-305-9430. If you're a campus student, you can email cac at snhu.edu, or you can call 603-644-3118. If you're SNHU staff or faculty, you can click on the link to go to your accommodation options. And just as a note, requests for communication, or excuse me, for CART communications or live ASL interpreting requires at least 3 weeks of advance notice. And as a note too, this is a PowerPoint live presentation, which means that you can actually click on all of the links in the slides as well. So feel free to do that. These are also linked out as well, and I would just really encourage you to take advantage of the services that the Career Services Office offers. So that includes career advising, resume assistance. We host events like this all the time, and we also have the SHU Career 360, which is a great resource as well. So definitely encourage you to take a look, connect with us, and reach out. At this time, I would like to introduce Aisha. If you don't mind actually coming off mute and saying a little bit about yourself, that'd be lovely.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aisha. I'm the diversity recruiter for campus and outreach here at Penguin Random House. I did drop my LinkedIn in the chat, but I didn't put any introduction there because I knew I was going to speak. But yeah, I've been here at the company for about 3 years now. August this year will be 3 years. And I support our internship program as well as entry-level hiring. And I also do a lot of outreach and sourcing for candidates who are interested in the publishing industry or who may not know much about it, but do have like some level of love of reading books and are curious to learn more. So that's kind of what I'm here to talk to you all about. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I know that I've been going through about an average of a book a day in this new year, so I think you're in good company so far. Dana, I would love to at this point in time pass it to you if you don't mind getting us started. And again, throughout the presentation, everyone feel free to drop any questions in the chat and we'll be sure to answer those as well. But Dana, the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Daisy and Aisha. So first and foremost, with our commitment to accessibility, again, my name is Dana McGrath. I am a white woman. I have long brunette hair, and I'm wearing a navy turtleneck today. But I'm so excited to be here to speak with our wonderful guest, my employer partner, who I get the pleasure to work with, Aisha Richardson, who is the diversity recruiter for campus and outreach for Penguin Random House. So thank you again for being here today.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Hi.
All right.
Unmuted? Yes, I am. Yes, I'm so happy to
You're
join.
good.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Sorry, did I cut
Perfect.
out for a second? I apologize if I
It might
did.
have been me. All good. All
Oh,
good.
you're
So,
fine. Mhm.
excellent. Okay. So, first and foremost, I want to start with a few questions just based on this conversation about networking and finding internships in the liberal arts field. So, to start off, if you can just share a little bit more about the types of internships available with Penguin Random House and what does that application process look like?
hmm Yeah, so at Penguin Random House, we have two internship programs. So one of the internship programs that we have is the summer role, and then we have the fall spring program. So just to give you all an overview of the program, I like to talk about it from a sense of this is what is the same and then what's different about them. So what's the same is that they're available in our adult and children's areas across a wide variety of functional departments. The program is fully remote. It's open to anyone if you're in undergrad, rising seniors and above. So for summer, you would have to be a rising senior to do the program. And then for the fall spring program, you have to be in your senior year while you're in the program. So that's for that's like for the people who are in undergrad. If you are the and above part, I like to describe it as people who are workforce ready applicants. So if you're in grad school and can work, if you are an alumnus and can work, if you are someone who is changing careers and can work, anything like that. If even if you're working part-time and you can work, like that is what that part refers to. So on the application, you'll see it's referred to as workforce ready applicant. So that's what that means to us. And the internships are paid at $21 an hour, and they include a lot of extra activities. We have lunch and learn sessions with our staff members. We also have recruiter one-on-one sessions where you get to meet with a recruiter, get resume support, cover letter support, and even mock interview support. You might even get assessment support for people who apply to entry-level jobs. One of those components is there's an assessment that's given. So we just started it because I just implemented it, is adding in assessment support for our interns. And then the other pieces are we have a social media takeover for our summer interns. We're working on incorporating an internship project into the program as well. And then the fall spring program, there's a mentorship aspect as well where you get to work with another staff member on, I'm actually adding in for this upcoming fall spring program, a workplace challenge initiative where you get to work on something with your mentor. And then the second half of that is assessment practice for those interns as well, where they get to work with their mentor and get feedback directly from that mentor about an assessment that they may practice on. And then we have the differences between the programs. Okay. So the fall spring program is a 2-season program. So you come in the fall and then you come back to us in the spring. And we only refer to it as fall spring because it's language that's understandable to college students and because a lot of our interns are in college. So it's really, if you really want to put the dates in, it's like early fall to early winter. That's what it is. So the program is the first 10 weeks is from September to November, right before Thanksgiving. And then the second 10 weeks starts back up in early January. I think it's about the second week of January, and then we'll end in March. So it doesn't touch spring at all, but that's what we did. So it's two set 10-week parts. And the reason why it's a 2-season program with two like 10-week parts is that in the first session, you get to work with one division, and in the second one, you get to work with another one. So for example, if you apply to marketing, a marketing adult or marketing children, so let's do marketing adult, you apply to a marketing adult internship and you're hired. In the first session, you could work for Knopf marketing, and in the second one, you can work for Penguin Publishing Group marketing. So those are two different divisions that you get to see the publishing process with. And it really is because the company operate on a decentralized model. So not one division operates like the other. So a lot of the processes may look very different. And then the other piece you get to see that's interesting for the fall spring program is that it's you get to see the end of year and then you get to see the start of year. So you get to see close and then launch in the publishing industry. So that's a really unique part of that program that we really, really value. And it gives interns a little bit more experience across departments. For the summer, it's 10 weeks. I'm sorry. And for the fall program, it's 21 hours a week. That's how long you work. But fall spring. And then for the summer, it's 28 hours a week, so it's more full time, and it's across multiple departments. So this is the thing that's the significant difference between the two. For the fall spring program, you're only getting to work in marketing, publicity, or our bookmaking industry. So bookmaking is managing editorial, production, editorial, or production, and those are the teams of people who proofread, copy, edit the books, and they bind the book into the final product. That's what that team is. And then in the summer, you get to work across more departments. So there are more departments offering summer internships. So that's editorial, marketing, publicity, sales, audio, legal, finance, art and design, DEI, IT. And one interesting thing too, for people who aren't, as I saw it in the chat, there was someone who was a design student. Art and design for the fall spring program, we don't have direct, like, this is with our art and design team, but there is a specific role called that falls under marketing, and it's called ad promo. Ad promo is design but through marketing. So that's an interesting aspect to consider as well if you're in design.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for running through that because I mean, just so many things you touched on were a paid internship, which is,
Hmm.
not super common in liberal arts, right? And then the fact that it's remote and then the structure that you've created for all those benefits as part of the experience is just that's outstanding. So I think,
Yeah.
it's definitely attractive, especially for SNHU online students that may, not have that ability to go in person or
Hmm.
they're balancing other priorities and also that we don't have that typical like semester structure, right, where we have 8-week
Hmm.
terms throughout the year. So I love
Yeah.
that. And I want to jump over to kind of as you're applying and you're looking at different roles like you were talking about, obviously, there's going to be a full gamut from all the different roles you just talked about, but
Hmm.
what are some key, I guess, in the publishing industry in general, like what are some key like valuable hard skills or soft skills that you feel would be important for internships when you're applying to Penguin Random House?
Yeah. So one thing that I like to do, and it's really because my why I took this job was that I really value helping people figure out where they want to be in life. So a lot of my advice is it is a heavy in the publishing industry, but it also can translate to other industries too. So baseline skills that are needed for like any job is anything around like organization, strong written and verbal communication, time and task management, attention to detail, the ability to work on a team, so collaboration, but also to be an independent worker and independently driven, project management, strategic thinking, and to have a goal-oriented mindset. I think those are always baseline what you should be speaking to in like a cover letter when you're applying to roles.
No, that's really helpful and really kind of as you're developing that, like showing how you implement those skills, right, in different school projects and maybe even volunteer experience. Like, do those all apply for when you're like pinpointing what your different skills are?
Sorry, can you ask that one more time?
Oh, sorry.
Mhm.
So when you're just talking about like the hard skills and soft skills, like can
Mhm.
can people include like school projects or volunteer experience, part-time work? Do those all apply, or does it only have to be full-time
No, it definitely
experience?
can be all of those things. I always tell people if it felt like it was like a work experience, then treat it as that. And you can talk about it in your cover letter as though it was a work experience, even if it was something that was unpaid, because you are still gaining skills. And, nowadays, like so much things are getting cut and all of these things that are not funded. So you want to make sure that you feel confident in that this is something that you value and you put your time and energy into it. So if you feel like it was a work experience, treat it as that.
Love that, absolutely. And
Hmm.
there's so many
Hmm.
transferable skills from all different industries that could apply. That's
Yeah,
perfect.
definitely.
And working as a diversity recruiter, seeing all these different resumes come in, I mean, what really stands out to you? I know you mentioned all those skills, but like
Mhm.
think of, that perfect resume, that like absolute hire, like what kind of
Yeah.
stands out to you on that resume and cover letter?
Yeah, I think for a resume, it's really how people are writing the bullets on their underneath each work experience. So people will treat a resume as like when I'm reading this, it's work experience, but I tell them treat it as work accomplishments. So think about what you did. You did X to accomplish Y. It should never read as a job description because that's just boring. You want it to be something that's dynamic and shows that you are dynamic. And if you treat it like a work accomplishment, it will give you that little bit of an edge. I also think adding data and numbers, like to show like amounts and frequency and like how like if you met with someone or if you worked on a team like how often you were doing that, right? Like that's also really helpful and shows a little bit more. It just gives a little extra than just saying like I had someone who put on a resume, I managed a team of interns. Okay, that there's no date like how many interns were you doing? What were you doing with them? Why were you meeting? Why were you managing them? Different things like that. And then for the cover letter, your cover letter is an extension of your resume. It is not a repetition of your resume. So I think that's the biggest thing. A lot of people will repeat what's on the cover or what's on the resume in your cover letter, like literally copy and paste verbatim. It shouldn't be that. You need to talk about skills from the job description and how you've used them, grown them, built on them, and adapted those skills and apply that to your cover letter and talk about that there. That's really what you want to do in that. And then you also have to have an interest in the books that you're applying to, like the job that the whatever job you're applying to, the books that imprint or division is creating, you should have that discussed in your resume and cover letter. And I'm not talking about like, oh, I have a love of reading. Harry Potter is my favorite. I mean, yes, all of us love it. I love it. However, it should be something that's more current market knowledge, not something that's like every day everybody knows, that feels too generic and it doesn't talk to about who you are. So yeah.
No, that's super relevant because I think our SNHU career advisors, the team that work with students on resumes and cover letters and just providing guidance there, it's
Mhm.
all about that customization, right? Optimizing your resume for that specific job, not just sending like a generic, this is what I send to everybody and hope I get a response, right? So
Mhm.
I think that's really helpful to come from, from someone in recruiting also that
Mhm.
that's really relevant. So
Yeah,
appreciate
definitely.
that response. And
Mhm.
really with the, we just had a session this week about portfolios too. So, where does the portfolio come into play? Like, is it included on the resume? Do you not look at it till the interview process? Like, what is that for a
Oh,
liberal arts degree?
yeah, definitely include it on the resume. I would also include it on your cover letter. Anywhere where you have like your contact information, just put it there. I even say like if you send it in an email, like put it in your email. It should be a part of your email signature. I think that for art and design, obviously, that's obvious. You need a portfolio. You definitely, if you're interested in working in books, it should be versatile and it should also have book examples in it, which people are like, usually like, I get a lot of people who apply to this industry and they don't have book designs. And I always tell people the best way, if you're like, well, I'm stuck, what do you mean? Then pick book titles that you really enjoy and reciprocate them, but from your design background. So take that and reapply, like recreate it, like redo the cover and put your own spin on it. And then I would even say write something underneath it about why you went this direction. That adds a little bit more and tells a little bit more. If you're writing and and you're a writer, you can also create a portfolio of like different writing samples. Sometimes, like yesterday, I went to a session and a girl she's a writer and she's interested in writing, just like doing editorial work, but she gave me a magazine that she designed and it showed like different articles and things like that. So if you have those things, put that in there. Your portfolio doesn't need to be this incredibly long thing. It can be as long or short as you want it to be. Obviously, for me, I'm like, the more you have, it's always better, but you really don't have to kill yourself with that. Like, it really depends on like the strength of your work, but you want it to be versatile. So definitely make sure to have that in there. For marketing as well. Like, marketing is a good area too to have portfolio examples too. So, yeah, I think that answers the question.
Oh, absolutely, for sure.
Mhm.
And I think, like you were mentioning, it doesn't have to be a school project. Like you could literally just go find a book in the bookstore
Mhm.
and say, "Hey, I
Yep.
could make this even better," and then just
Oh,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
put that in your
definitely.
portfolio. I love
And
that advice.
something for also for design students too, or people who are interested in design work. The designer's always listed inside the book. So you can always find them and then connect with them on LinkedIn, follow their Instagram, see if they might have a website that's public. A lot of them do. So, because remember, design is all about the eye of the beholder, I think. So it's really subjective. So a lot of people they've probably either went through the same experience as you, so they probably have a lot of things out there that show that creative side. And I think with design, it is a space of creativity where you like you're always creating in some way. And artists always just have that drive and background. So I always see like artists, even our staff, like I said, they have such a wide range of things that you can find them on, that I think that's a good way to start too. So the books are always a good place to start.
Absolutely. And that's a really great tip that it's like the author, like everyone is listed for that
Mm-hmm.
recognition on the book. So,
Mm-hmm.
why not look them up on LinkedIn or see the projects that they're
Exactly.
working on and ask them for an
Hmm.
informational interview if you have some similarities. So,
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
that's a really good segue as far as, maybe we touched on that check mark there, but like what would be some of your other best advice to like network effectively in the liberal arts industry?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things with networking is that it can feel really uncomfortable, especially if someone sees themselves as introverted. And I think that the best way to get over that is to make it personal to you. So how can you make a networking opportunity something that is personal to you? Oftentimes, you kind of just gotta put on your big girl pants, big person pants, and put yourself out there. And even when you're having a coffee chat, like it can feel like a really hard space, but you gotta, if it's for your career, right? Like that's the thing, the energy, you have to put the energy into it, and then afterwards you can go crash later. Like people won't know, people don't know that I am super introverted. Like I know after every one of these sessions, honestly, once 5 o'clock hits, I'm done. So that's really just how I operate. But I think, again, it's about making it personal to you. And a lot of the things that I've seen people do and that I've even done myself is that, again, when you find the person you want to network with, find commonalities between you and them. Like find something in their work that you really appreciate, whether it's the book that they're creating or something in their portfolio that you've seen or on a website that they put out. And then just tell them, like, hey, I noticed that you did this. Like, I really appreciated XYZ. And I would love to talk with you more about your process and share a little bit of my own. Here's my portfolio if you want to check it out. Like, that makes it more personal to you. I would also say I've had people send me, like, they know I'm a diversity recruiter. So they know DEI is something that is really important to me. So people will send me articles like, hey, have you read this? Have you checked this out? Like I said, a girl yesterday, she gave me her portfolio, her like a magazine that she edited, and was walking me through like my experience, and her experience not being from New York. She was from like the South or something. And she said, this is something that I went to New York for the first time and I got caught here. And I was showing her like, oh my God, yeah, I know exactly where you're standing because I recognize the buildings. There's like one part of New York that looks just like that. And yeah, we were just having a conversation about that. People were talking to me about being first generation. Like I'm first generation for college, and like they were talking to me about that yesterday at the session. And I really connected with them on that, about the struggle of being someone from a low income background and then figuring out how do you network, how do you get out there, and the struggles that they were going through. And we just talked about it, just make it as conversational as possible. And then another tip about networking, a lot of times you go to people and you have like this onslaught of questions. Like, I am ready to ask you everything, but make sure that you balance that with talking about yourself too. You don't want to spend time only asking them questions, because the goal of networking is like, I need you to be in my network as someone who can help me get further in my career. So that is ultimately the baseline, right? So you want to make sure that they know who you are. You can't just ask them questions. They already are in the positions you want to be in. So you want to make sure that you talk about yourself too, so they get to know you and they can like advocate for you. And then keep in touch with them. Always send them a follow-up email. If like someone asked me that yesterday, like, how do I keep in touch with someone who I've coffee chatted with? I say like track them, like keep seeing what's going on in the industry. A good tip is to subscribe to Publishers Weekly, see what's going on in the industry. If you see something that comes out that's relative to what that person did or anything like that, you can just follow up with them. Even from like say, hey, I noticed this happening in the industry. I was curious about your thoughts. Happy to have hop on another call. Let's talk some more. Anything like that. I've been telling people like personal anecdotes about myself. I'm getting married this year. So a lot of people have been reaching out to me like, oh my God, how's wedding planning going? Things like that. And I'm just like, I don't know, but thanks for asking. And then I'll be like, oh, by the way, can you help me with this resume? I was just thinking about applying to this job. I'm like, yep, let's do it. So anything like that will really help you um to avoid the like ickiness of networking, because it makes it more a personal connection to you. And it's definitely something that, again, for us introverted people, you got to push through. Don't be afraid to like cold email people. Saw someone drop that in the chat just now. Don't be afraid. Like, listen, the worst thing that they can do is not respond to you. So find someone else. There's 5,000 people in this company. Somebody will respond to you. And I will always say, like, I dropped my LinkedIn in the chat earlier. I will always respond to you. So if you ever want to chat with me, I'm super happy to do that. So yeah.
No, that's perfect. And I just
Hmm.
love the personalization that you talk about, right? Because it's like
Hmm.
we're constantly, like I said, advising to customize and optimize that resume based on the job description and the bullets and like how you can apply those skills and like what you've done. But that's totally the same with networking, right? Where it's like do your
Yes.
research on that person and make those connections, because networking, even though it kind of does feel like you said that icky, weird word, it's like it's really
Hmm.
just making connections.
Yeah.
And like how do you make new friends, right? Like it's
Exactly,
just
exactly. That
professional
this is
friends.
professional friends, and you never know. You can find someone who's a really good friend, like in your professional network. Like I definitely have like editors and people here at this company that I was like, oh my God, like you're awesome. Like outside of just like editing this book. So yeah, I really love that. I always tell people, just I make this weird comparison of, think about it of when you have your friends who, when something's going on in their relationship or anything like that, and they're like, oh my God, I don't know what they're doing, or I just met this person. And then you become a detective and you deep dive into that person's background. And all of a sudden, you know everything about that person from the time of birth till now, wherever they are. And like put that energy into your career. You should be able to do that. You have that energy when you feel when it's like your personal life, your friends, etc. So put that into your career as well. And I think that is the thing that will really help you when making connections and with networking.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I feel like this is a good point because we're talking about people asking their questions as far as
Mhm.
making those personal connections. So I want to just touch Daisy on the shoulder here, see if there are any questions that we want to address from the chat from students that are in attendance.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been a lot of questions too about the portfolio and things like
Mhm.
that. So oh gosh, let me pick one. So about how long should a portfolio be? Like how much information would you want to see in a portfolio in any field? Like is there such a thing as too much? What would
Hmm.
you want to see there?
I don't think there's such thing as too much because a portfolio can also extend to like a social media page. It can extend to a blog. Like it doesn't have to just live on a portfolio. It's like I said before, I think the more information is always better. Like it's really up to someone how much they want to sift through, but it shows like how much you have worked on something or anything, like how much you're investing into things. So I don't think there's like really any limit, but it's again, as long as it's organized and well stated, like that's what I always say is good.
Okay, awesome. There's also a lot of questions kind of along the same vein. So I'm going to kind of like rush through a few of them and I think we'll
Mhm.
kind of get the vibe. So
Mhm.
someone had asked if you only have knowledge of writing creatively but you want to have a portfolio. Someone else had mentioned that they're an independent music journalist and they've done reviews on music reviews online, and could that be in their portfolio? Someone else had asked is it more important to show like a specific niche of book cover design versus like things that are more general? So I think really the question is becoming like, what do you, regardless of your field, like what do you include in the portfolio, and how do you make those decisions on what to include or not?
Hmm. So I think first I will say is that you do not need a portfolio unless you are going for an art and design role, a junior designer position, any kind of design position. It is not necessary. Is it something you can have? Yes. So don't put so much energy into the portfolio if you are not going for art and design careers. For the other things, like what to put in it, for English, you can put anytime anybody who's going to like a writing background, you can put all of that. So your reviews, that's all writing samples. Um, any type of creative writing pieces, that's all writing examples, right? Because creative writing, even though it's creative, it shows who you are and that it also shows your writing capabilities. So it is a writing sample. I would also add in like professional ones if you have it. So that's another piece you can have, but you can just as much have your creative writing pieces as well. For art and design, I think the more, again, the more you have, the better. I would say have digital media in there as well. So videos, I don't know what it's called, but like when you have like a reel and the videos and or it's like a moving image, like things like that you want to incorporate into your portfolio. Um, Covers, yes. Interiors, yes. The spine of the book, yes. Fonts, any type of typography that you can showcase, yes, definitely have in there. Marketing. assets like materials and things like that, yes. Because again, the role I mentioned before, ad promo, it's a lot of like designing products. So like if there's a tote bag that you designed, put that in there. If there's like bookmarks or socks, anything like that, you can put in there. Those are the types of design. Like I said, the more the better. But again, you don't have to feel like you need to overextend yourself or not. It's honestly all up to you as like the individual person. But also in we I feel like we've been talking a lot about portfolios, but your energy should also be going into your resume and cover letter. This is a publishing company. Your cover letter needs to be strong. So that's definitely, and it needs to be there because a lot of people will not put a cover letter, and that will automatically disqualify you from the role, regardless of what area of the industry that it's in. So even if it's in an art and design role, for example, you need a cover letter.
I think that's a great point. I know that,
Mhm.
I've worked in career services my whole life, and even then, writing my own cover letter, I would rather go to the dentist, but I've
Mhm.
always done a cover letter because I know how important
Mhm.
they are. And I think
Yeah.
that's a good message as well.
Mhm.
So I wondered then if we refocus a little bit and talk about internships specifically, if you, and I may know your answer, but if you had to pick between a resume, a cover letter, and a portfolio, which of those three do you think is the most important thing when it comes to internships for liberal arts students?
It depends. All of our art and design roles, again, both a cover letter and portfolio.
Mhm.
For the other roles, every other role, the cover letter.
Okay. Got it. Perfect. Awesome. There is another question in the chat too that I thought was pretty interesting. So this student has mentioned that they're interested in a book reviewer for like the publishing end of things. They love to read and talk about others, excuse me, love to read and talk about other people's writings. And do positions exist like that in the publishing world?
Not necessarily. Maybe in publicity, like publicity, you might, but you would be getting journalists to talk about the work. So a
Oh,
publicist would be sourcing journalists and like people who are on the external and like media outlets to cover a title and why we should be, why someone should be buying that title. So yeah.
okay. Okay, awesome. And then David's actually had a couple great questions too, and this is again kind of shifting
Mhm.
focus a little bit, but are query letters used or recommended? Do you have any best practices for that?
Query letters are only for people who are looking to get published, not to
Okay,
work in publishing. Mhm.
gotcha. Okay, fantastic. And then let me see here. Oh, so this is actually another great question. We've got some like this already. So people talking about coming in with you maybe like this really broad range of experiences across different industries. Maybe they're not even remotely related. Is that a problem for you? I wouldn't think so, but if you could
No,
expand
it's
on that.
definitely again like I said with the skills that I told you before,
Hmm.
those are skills baseline you should be getting for every job, any
Hmm.
job like that you're applying for, that you're looking for. Those are the skills you're seeking to build.
Hmm.
So those are transferable skills. So if you get those skills from other areas and other industries, you can definitely bring them here. And so that yeah, you can literally have a background in anywhere and then bring it to the company for sure.
Okay, got it. So then I've got a couple more questions too. So, let's say that you've got a perfect cover letter, you've applied, you've gotten to the interview process. How do you prepare for the interview, especially maybe if you're like trying to do that pivot
Mhm.
into this industry that you're not familiar or that you don't have any experience in?
Yep. So again, looking at those skills, use those as the baseline for how you're preparing, and then lean on the STAR method of interviewing. So I'm going to talk about this. So I think I don't know if any of you have signed up for my info session for next week, but I'm going to talk about this really heavily in the info session. But preparation with the STAR method is key. So it's important to talk about use the skills as your guide. So pick every skill. I like chart it out. So I'll put like communication and then have two examples of that follow the STAR method. So have like and it's like one example that's just like a general example of how I address this, and then one example for the interview questions that are like, tell me about a challenge that you've had. So those are like the two different responses. Like one is like, oh, tell me about a time when you versus tell me about a challenge you've had. So that's why I have two responses for every every skill. And then the ones that challenge, sometimes challenges, like it's a challenge for a reason, right? Sometimes you're not successful in challenges. So I would usually add a second R. So the last R in the STAR method is results. So I would usually add a second one for like reflection or like review, just to like, and then I would talk what that looks like when I'm interviewing is talking to the recruiter about like what I would do differently, like based on like what I did before, how would I adjust my practices from like following up experiences and then bring it back if I had to do it differently. That's what that second R would be. And then yeah, I would just do that for each skill and then have that as my thing that I'm preparing. Making sure that my responses aren't too long. They should be about 2 to 3 minutes each. You want to spend like the first 30 seconds answering like the situation and the task, and then the next like maybe 60 seconds talking about the action and the result. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So really, the theme that I'm hearing is making sure that you are prepared and that you can talk about your skills basically and how they transfer over.
Yes.
Perfect. Love that. So we have another question. Someone has asked if you have to start out as an intern at Penguin Random House or if you can get hired at like an entry level position with a bachelor's degree and what that process might look like.
Yeah, no. So you definitely do not. Like you definitely don't need an internship to get a job in publishing. Do I think that it would be easier? Yes, 100%. It's a very competitive industry. So I definitely think that an internship in the industry or at something that's like book adjacent would definitely give you a leg up.
Okay, awesome. And then you actually said something earlier on in the presentation that I was curious about. You had made a comment that most of your interns are college students, which makes sense, but that implies that some of them aren't.
Mhm.
So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, our internships are very hands-on. So you're working on realistic projects and things that are actually happening in the industry. So a lot, like I had a question from someone, I don't remember who exactly it was. They wanted our interns to, oh, they were trying to partner with me about like, oh, can we have our interns take this class and get credits for it? But they would, a part of like the requirements for the course and for the credits was that they had to talk about what they're doing and do a presentation of what they're doing in the industry. And one of the hesitations we have is that you cannot show what you're doing really because you're working on actual things. So like a lot of the books and pieces that our interns work on are not coming out for another 2 years because the publishing process takes about 2 years to come out. Again, it really depends on the role, but yeah, if you're an editorial, chances are you're working on things that are not publishing yet and like
Mhm.
not widely known. So there's a lot of liability around there. So that's just to show you like you're not working on made up things. You're working on real life things that like our staff members are creating and actually putting out. So yeah, it's a really in like a comprehensive program. And that's why you don't need to be in college to do it. A lot of people who are career changing professionals will do it as well, just to gain a little bit of experience in the industry. Because again, an internship isn't necessary, but it is very helpful.
Sure. Okay. So then questions that had come up on other presentations this week were revolving a lot around this idea that maybe someone lives in a really rural area, maybe
Mhm.
they don't have, that they don't live outside of New York or, Boston or whatever. If they were a liberal arts student looking to get an internship related to publishing and, you know, all of your remote internships were filled and things like that, what would be your tips on where to start in that
Mhm.
process?
Mhm. I think that anything you want to touch anything that's publishing adjacent. So
Mhm.
an easy one, maybe not an easy one to get hired in, but an easy one is becoming a bookseller. So becoming a bookseller, whether if it's at like a Barnes and Noble or a small bookstore, will definitely put you in the industry. Like it will give you an insight into like what's trending, what's happening, why are books picked as like staff picks and things like that, and author's choice and all of these different things. So that's definitely one I always recommend. And then I think other ones are if you're in college or if you went to college, well, all of you are at SNHU. So I would definitely ask your professors. That's
Mm,
always one that I think students forget that they can do, especially if it's a remote college, like you're in remote courses and online courses, it can be really hard. But ask your professors. They are a network as well. The other network that I don't think students tap into is each other. I I was kicking myself yesterday because I did a session, an info session at Emerson yesterday, and in the room there was the president of undergraduate student group for publishing in the room, and she was a
mm,
student who was the president of that group, and that group creates, they publish things and that are related to the publishing industry, and they give you, you're able to work on things that will give you skills that are direct correlations to the things that you'll be working on here. So for example, I had a lot of people come up to me after asking, hey, do you know where I can get copy editing and proofreading skills for production editorial roles? And that would give me the Chicago manual style experience that's necessary for those types of roles. And her group does that. They would give you that experience. But if the thing that I was kicking myself for, I wish I had did something of like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing that's involving in the publishing industry or something like that? Just ask the room, because when I talked to her after, that's when I found out. And
mm.
I wish like she was there so I can just be like, here is your resource, use it. And that's the biggest thing that I think people don't realize, that yeah, you all might feel like we're all floating in the same boat, but you float in the same boat in different ways, right? Like someone might be seasick over to the left, someone might be having coping techniques to be handling it. Someone might just be like hanging out and talking to people and it's fine. Like everyone copes in a different way. You also job search in a different way. You do everything differently. So, but that doesn't mean that you can't use each other. There's not one way to do something. So use the person who's sitting next to you, because you never know what they might be doing differently to you. And then help each other out. Like that's also someone who can help you read a resume, read a cover letter. I think that resumes and cover letters are so, again, so subjective, and like you get so much different advice from everyone under the sun. So having a peer to read it with you, you don't know what advice they've heard, and you don't know what advice you've heard that you can share. Like it's always a reciprocal relationship that you can have. So definitely use the people around you as a network as well.
I love that because I think that's really, obviously the focus is often on how do I network, and I think
Hmm.
that the other side of that is that one day you're going to be the one that people want to network with. So
Exactly.
it's building that highway both ways, basically.
Hmm. Oh
And
yeah, I was definitely that person. I didn't go to any of these things in college, like any of these career fairs, anything. So I definitely was like fish out of water. Like, guys, what are we doing? How are
mhm.
we looking for jobs? Like, what are we doing? Um, and so now here I am leading these sessions. So it's literally like full circle for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I do have to plug too. I do happen to know that the president of the SNHU Creative Writing Club is in this meeting. So I really encourage everyone to,
Yeah.
yes,
Hmm.
go to a club meeting, just see what it's like, network with your peers. If the president wants to drop the email address in the chat, then I would be more than open to that if, people want to reach out and get more information. So switching gears just a tiny bit, Amanda had a clarifying question about something that you said earlier. So Amanda's asking, after we've applied for an internship, you said that you do recommend reaching out to someone who works at the company that you've applied to,
Hmm.
correct?
Hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. You can definitely do that. I would say even for entry level jobs, like I'll have people reach out to me and say, "Hey, I applied for this job. Do you know anyone on the team who I can talk to?" So you may not want to reach out to someone on the team, but someone in the company is better. Same thing for the internship. It's better to reach out to someone in the company. But with the internship, you really don't know who. The only people reading your applications are me and probably one of the other recruiters. So that's the one where you have more free reign. So because you don't really know which teams you'll be like applying to. We are looking to add that to our applications for this time around, just to let you know like which imprints are going to be hiring. So you might see that on the applications. But definitely you can find anyone to talk to. Yeah.
I love that. And okay, I see that the Creative Writing Club email address did get dropped. So again, feel
Yeah.
free to reach out to those people
Yeah, and
as well.
I also encourage everyone, if you have some type of like something that can be a resource to someone else on this call, like I would recommend dropping that in the chat too. Like
Yeah.
anything, like if you are involved in writing or anything that can bring that's adjacent to the publishing industry, be a support to one another for sure.
hmm Love that. Yeah. Building up each other, I think, is a really important, often overlooked part of job searching. So I love that.
Mhm.
So I want to switch gears a little bit and ask a question that's actually my own personal question, just because I'm curious about this. So I know we were talking about book design earlier and things like that. I know that there's at least about four freelance book designers that I follow on TikTok because I have this graphic design background and it's fascinating to watch. So I'm just wondering in general, with things like TikTok, with things like freelance, have you already seen changes? Are you guys expecting more changes on the horizon with social media in general?
Yeah, I mean, we use social media heavily, like
Mhm,
especially marketing, publicity, design, like it's heavy. You kind of have to because we book talk is such a huge part of this industry. So
mhm.
yeah, we definitely as long if you have TikTok experience, it's always like really good. Because us millennials may not be there. We struggle. So yeah, I definitely think it is a good space to have experience. So I also think that on your resume, a lot of people will ask me who do have book accounts, like book talk accounts. Um, I always say that it's definitely something you can put on your resume and something you can talk towards in your cover letter.
Mhm,
Definitely.
mhm,
Because it really shows you have a passion for the industry because I mean, the only thing I know about book talk and like bookstagrams is that it's really complicated to make those videos and it's really time consuming where a lot of these influencers are making it their full-time jobs,
mhm.
right? Because it's so time consuming. So it really shows a level of dedication to the work. So yeah, that's I definitely think social media is such a good place to be. Follow people. A lot of our designers, like you said, Daisy, they have pages and they are freelance writers. So 100% do it.
Yeah, and I think especially I know the student who asked about, being a book reviewer, maybe that job exists in publication, maybe it doesn't, but it
Hmm.
exists out there in social media. What
Hmm.
what are these book talk creators if not reviewers that can make or break a book like they mentioned in the chat? So, I,
Exactly. And a lot of our interns will do like research for to find like which influencers are best people who are suited to like promote our books. And
mhm.
they'll send like packages to them, like mailings, like some book samples to them, things like that. So yeah, it's very much something that's big in this industry.
Yeah, I love that. God, the TikTok ads have definitely clocked my preferred genre of books right now, so I can't even get on there because my Kindle Unlimited is filled up. I have no more books I can add. I'm
Oh yeah,
running out of
yeah.
time to read, and they still just keep giving me more. So
Yeah.
there's absolutely something there. Fantastic. Well, are there any other questions? If you would want to come off mute and ask your question directly to Aisha, you'd be welcome to. You just have to use the raise hand feature, and I can give you access to your mic and camera. So I'll leave that space open if anyone wants to do that or put additional questions in the chat. I'm also deeply afraid of silence, so you've only got about 10 seconds to make up your mind. I'm kidding. Okay, Danielle, perfect. I see you've got a hand up. Let me remember how to do this. And okay, Danielle, you should now have access to your mic and camera if you want to go ahead and ask a question.
Hi, how are you today?
Good.
I'm actually just wondering, because all through my college career, I've been in contact with this one woman I know through my dad who works in sales at
Hmm.
Penguin Random House.
Hmm.
And I was just wondering, like, would it be beneficial for me to, like, kind of get her recommendation considering she's already an employee there? Um,
Yeah.
that would
Yeah, so
probably do wonders, right?
So I think that she could be a good recommendation if she knows you from a work perspective, right? Like there's a difference between someone being a family friend and someone knowing you from like,
Okay.
oh, I know your work. So 100% she's someone who you can, I think I responded 100% when you asked that question in the chat. 100% she's someone who is a good resource to you to help you navigate the industry, learn about the industry, connect you with people in the industry.
Uh-huh.
And the other side is if you're gonna get a recommendation from her, then she should know your work and like
Right.
have been
Okay.
worked with you. Hmm.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you.
Perfect. Anybody else? Let's see. Danielle, do you have something else?
No, I think
Or
she
no?
just put her hand down. Yeah.
Perfect.
No,
Looks
it
like
was I was trying to get rid of it. Sorry.
no, you're fine. Okay, let's see. Camille, I see you've got a question. I've turned on your mic and camera if you want to go. Camille, you're muted. You may have to unmute to ask your question.
Hi. I'm so sorry for that delay. I apparently had turned off the microphone beforehand. Thank you so much for all of your helpful information, all of you,
Yeah, of
especially Aisha. I found all of this super interesting. And I was just wondering, since I am internationally based, I live in France right now. So I was wondering if these internships, since they're remote, are they open internationally, or would there be like deadline issues that restrict the opportunities?
Yeah, so one of the requirements is you do have to live in the US to do the internship.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very
Yep.
much.
Yep.
Camille, I definitely suggest too, if you want to connect with our internship team, you can email in. Our email addresses are in the chat and we can share it too. But that'd be a good question too for the internship team, like I said, just to kind of see what sort of conversations you guys can have.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions?
I see in the chat someone asked a question around if you have both design, specifically book cover and publishing experience, but want to go into editorial internships. Can you mention the design background? You definitely can. And then the other half of the question is also if most of your experience is helping indie authors at small publishers, can you mention that as well? That's completely fine. I always say because the industry is so, that's the thing about this industry. It's so competitive, but it's also really small, but it feels super big. But it's not. It's actually a really small industry. So indie authors, indie publishers, like smaller publishing houses are always a really good place to start before you come to such a large house. So yeah, definitely mention that. For editorial, you do need some level of publishing knowledge and experience. So I would say that as long as you have that, it's good. I also would say a lot of people ask me like if I'm applying to jobs, right? If I am interested in all aspects of publishing, like, I don't know where I want to be, but I have an interest across the industry. Should I be applying to more than one? Like, should I apply everywhere? And we'll see that. So the answer is if you are doing that, you need to know why you're applying to that job or even like the internship as well. If you're applying to all of them, your cover letter should be different for every single job you apply for. We don't want it to feel like you just went on on Indeed and then applied to every job opening under the sun that had the word marketing in it because you're interested in marketing, right? Like we want to know why you are excited about the prospect of marketing books, for example, right? We also want to know that you have the interest and the qualifications for that job that you're applying for. So do you have experience in that specific area? So if you are like if you are applying to everything under the sun, make sure you have the experience to back it up. And that you know like okay, I do have a strong interest in each of these areas. Okay?
Love that. That's a great point.
Mhm.
There's actually another great question in the chat too that we haven't covered yet. So
Mhm.
when it comes to the internship process, is what does that pipeline look like? Is there
Mhm.
necessarily a job available after the internship? Do you have to apply for the job? Is it maybe not so much? What does that look like?
Yeah, so well, to also answer the question right before that about how do they differ. So
Mhm.
remote and on-site, I think the only real difference, because we don't have on-site internships, is that it's remote versus on-site. But obviously like in-person interactions can be different to like online interactions, but it also depends on you, right? Like as an individual. But I always think like in person can be a little bit better because you can feel a vibe. There's a difference, right? But I also don't think that one will hurt you over the other. Like we have hired so many of our remote interns since I've been here. Um, Now for the hiring piece, yeah, so there needs to be jobs available, right? So our interns apply to jobs the same as like people in the entry level. Again, you don't need to have an internship to apply to our jobs.
Mhm.
If you have an internship, it does give you a little bit of a leg up. One, because you have publishing experience. Two, because I you have published experience from this house. Three, because I actively push our interns on our recruiters like a crazy person. So that is the benefits. I We also ask for feedback from intern supervisors. Like, what were your thoughts on working with this person? Would you hire them right now? And we tell the recruiters, this is what this supervisor said. This is how you all also get the interns also get FaceTime with recruiters. So they know that, hey, this is someone who's like looking for a position. They know our interns. So these are all things that give you that leg up when you are in the internship program. But yeah, again, you are still applying and competing with everyone else. You might just have like a bit of a leg up, and you also get directed resume and cover letter support. So you have all of those as tools to support you when you're in the internship. And we do hire a decent amount of our interns. Like I know since I like we hire maybe about anywhere, and it could vary depending on the year, anywhere between 40 and 60% of our interns get hired. So it's a pretty decent amount. Some of our hiring managers are like, we only want to see previous interns. Like they don't want to see anybody else. Sometimes it really depends. Like it depends on what people want. And sometimes they're like, our hiring managers will be our intern supervisor and be like, I want my intern to get this job right now. And they'll like add them to the pool and like help them. And, they would be interviewing and doing things like that, just like with everyone else. And that also is a leg up because your manager knows you. So they're all different ways to get involved and to like be above the group if you are an intern with us. So
I love that. That's amazing. And having you as a champion, I'm sure, is also a leg up as
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So we've got time for probably about one more question. And Jennifer, I see your hand is up. So I've just given you access to your mic if you want to go ahead and come off mute and ask your question.
Hi, I'm kind of exposing myself here, but I have applied multiple times to Penguin Random House. Will my application be looked differently if they keep
No.
seeing my name like pop up over and over?
No.
And I also saw someone had asked also a good question, and it's what internship positions are more open to people with low knowledge or low experience when it
Mhm.
comes to the publishing industry?
Yeah. So first, Jennifer, I'll say like I dropped my LinkedIn, so message me on LinkedIn. We'll chat. And then I will
Okay.
say the other one. I think I responded in the chat. All of them are. They all are. That's what the internship is for. It's there as a space for you to see what the industry is about. So all of
Mhm.
them are.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Mhm.
Great answer. Awesome. Well, I always like to close with a slightly unscripted question. So, if I could ask you, what is your absolute number one tip for the application or the
Oh
internship
my
process when
gosh.
it comes to applying to Penguin Random House?
I always tell people, and again, I'll talk about this on Tuesday in my info session, make it as conversational as possible. Any conversation, like any internship, not internship, any interview, make it a conversation. It should be, the person in front of you, they just have the job and might be your boss, but they are a person first, right? And treat them like that. Talk to them and treat yourself like that too, because I know that these spaces are super intimidating. I know. And I'm saying this as someone who I know if I went into an interview tomorrow, I would be like oh my God, panic mode has kicked in hard. But trust in the work that you've done that's gotten you to where you are right now, and then be a person first. That's always what I say is just person first. Everyone wants to work with someone they like and someone that they can talk to. I've had hiring managers tell me that like if I don't like how you're talking to me, then I don't think this is gonna work because you're working with people. So always do that and always ask questions after the interview. Send a thank you note after the interview as well. I would also say easy question is, what are you reading right now? This is a publishing company. Everyone here loves reading.
What are you reading right now?
I just started Perfume by Patrick Suskind. So good.
Like the original?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. Let me know
Yeah.
how it goes. I've heard good things. So,
Yeah, I've heard good things too. So I just started it, literally finished the first chapter last night.
okay.
So
Okay.
yes, but I have a
Perfect.
4-year-old who took time away from me.
I understand. I understand. Well, we are at the top of the hour, and I don't
Mhm.
want to keep anyone over. I also just got the notice that it's time to feed my dogs, so apparently I've got things to do.
Go
No, but I
ahead.
really appreciate everyone's time today. Aisha, I really am grateful that you were able to be with us here today and answer all of these questions. I would encourage everyone to connect with Aisha on LinkedIn
Mhm.
and I mean, take advantage of what she's offering. That doesn't come every day, so I really encourage
Yeah,
that.
it doesn't.
It doesn't. No, not at all. But
Mhm.
yeah, with that, I wish everyone a good afternoon and thank you again for being here.
Take care, everyone. Have a good one.
Thank you
All
again.
right.
Have a great one,
Bye.
everyone.
Good to see you, Dana.
You
Take care.
too. Chat soon.
Bye. Mhm.